Welcome to the channel, this is PraktikalDice, and today we have a casual Malifaux 4th edition battle report on Tabletop Simulator. This is my first battle report ever, and this might also be the first Tabletop Simulator battle report on YouTube, so that's kinda cool. The setup for today is standard boundary dispute. The starting schemes are scout the rooftops, harness the ley lines, and ensnare. I'll be trying out Pandora Tyrant-Torn against another YouTuber on the skirmish tabletop game scene, Wargames on Toast, who was playing Jakob Lynch wildcard. This was the first game with Tyrant-Torn, and Toast's first 50 Soulstone games of Malifaux, so I do apologize for any rules we get wrong. The lists are currently shown on screen, feel free to pause the video to really take in our meta warping list, or you can check it out in the description down below. I'm not going to bore you with the full deployment step, so here's my deployment. And here's Toast deployment. Let me know if you're interested in actually seeing the deployment step, and I'll get it added to the next video. The map we're playing on is a funky Asian-inspired town. The walls are height 4 climbable, with opening for any models to walk through. We have a height 2 blocking impassable log pile, height 2 climbable barrow and crates, height 4 blocking climbable houses, a height 4 blocking impassable house, height 6 blocking impassable pavilion, fancy, a few height 5 blocking impassable trees, and some concealing dense fog banks. With that out of the way, let's get started with turn 1. Scheme-wise, both Toast and I picked Harness the Ley Line. Here's my hand for the turn. As you can see, it was pretty spicy. I knew I had to keep the low tome to empower later for Candy, and I also need to keep the 8 to summon at least one Thrall, and hey, the red joker, well, that's just icing on the cake. I was attacker, so I activated first. Starting with the aversion, I moved Pandora and Delirium up the board 4 inches with the signature action, Frightening Reminder. Aversion then interacted, passing the strat marker to be in range of Pandora. Toast then activated Tendon to do, Tendon things. For his first AP, he interacted to drop a scheme marker. Then, he used the invisible hand with the inner glow trigger to drop another marker. This pulses out Brilliance to everyone within 4. Unfortunately, he had to cheat in the 5 to hit the TN. He then moved Kitty up 2 inches with his front of card ability, Brilliant Guide. Now he could have chosen to remove the Brilliance, move an extra 2, but he chose to keep it on her. Onto my activation, Lissa kicks the strat marker and moves up to be next to it. The Beckoner kicks the strat marker and spends a stone to use the crew card ability, Rig the Deck, which I just realized while writing the script that she can't actually use because it's unique models only. Whoops. Anyway, this gives her Brilliance and cycles some cards. Not wanting to activate anything important yet, I went with the other Lissa, moving up twice, hiding behind this wall just out of range of Lynch. This is Toast's 4th game of Malifaux, so he's actually playing Killafo right now, and I don't want to lose any models turn 1. Going with Kitty, she's going to use her signature Shining Example, moving up 2 to be next to the marker to pick it next to the other strat marker. She then targets the Illuminated with Drawn to Brilliance to move him towards herself and into the fog bank. Not wanting to have the marker kicked down any further, I decided it was time to go with Delirium and summon some Thralls for Don't Turn Your Back. This prevents any models from interacting if they start engaged with them. Charging up to get the extra 2 inches to get in range of the Illuminated, I summoned a Thrall with the House of Mirrors. I was on a make flip and failed, but good thing I had the 8 in hand. Spending a stone, I declared action again, which luckily succeeded, having flipped 13 and an 8. I then targeted Kitty with Psychotic Influence, but this failed. Hungering Darkness goes next, using Bound to Brilliance on the Beckoner to lure himself up to the marker. Unfortunately, he was out of range to kick the marker, so he had to move and then interact. He kicks the marker over the center line, as far away from Lissa or Candy as possible. The Thrall then slaps Kitty for 1, getting the mask to do it again. After taking 1 damage, he fails the second hit, which means he just took 1 damage for no reason. Wanting to clear the way for Illuminated, Mr. Graves charges up to be just outside the fog bank, but still in range to show the 2 Thralls the door. All 3 Honeypot models take a total of 2 damage from the Thrall's demise. Pandora activates next. She moves Carver up with no shelter here, and gives him a hazardous aura. She then kicks the marker up to be base to base with the Delirium, and then moves up to drop a scheme marker to start setting up for Harness the Ley Line. The Illuminated uses Shining Example, eating his Brilliance to move up a full 6 inch towards the marker. He kicks the marker over the center line and moves into base to base contact with it. Spooky Pumpkin Man goes next, moving up to be in range for Smashing Pumpkins, dropping on the remains marker within 6 so that the pulse hits both Kitty and Graves. Kitty passes the duel, but Graves takes 2. I actually forgot to give him the Paranoia token though. Since Mr. Graves is behind the fog, so Carver doesn't have line of sight to him, he spent a stone for the Found You trigger, and teleported Carver right up. The bonus attack targeted Kitty, which went through with 4 damage after achieving the Red Joker. Carver then kills off Kitty with his last AP. That was the first time I used Carver in 4th edition, and he's left quite an impression. Gwyneth hit the jackpot. She moves up to get in line of sight with Delirium, and hits him with Anti-Up with the Draw Out Sacreds trigger. This does 2 damage after the reduction from cover, and Toast makes a scheme marker on the center line. I do wonder what his scheme is. Candy started off targeting the Lissa with Goodie Basket. I empowered it with the tome to get the free interact, kicking the marker just over the line. Closer to the Huggy than I would have wanted, but the wall meant that I couldn't put it anywhere else. I wasn't sure if I could place the marker somewhere I didn't have line of sight to, so please let me know in the comments if I could have put it elsewhere. Candy moves up and uses Self-Loathing on the Eliminated. This dealt 2 damage and gave him Paranoia, which I plan to use for Harness the Leyline at the end of the turn, except he would have been within 2 of the marker, so that plan didn't really work out. Over to the other Beckoner, she kicks the marker up the board and then unfortunately fails to lure on Lynch. Going with the Sorrow now, I kick the marker across the center line towards the right, using Interact, Creep Along, and Interact. Lynch spends his first AP walking up, and then second AP to kick the marker over the line. He then spends his third AP to move closer to Carver. The Lyra failing was very unfortunate here, since he wasted 1 AP to move. Iki moves up and drops a scheme marker on the center line with Little Arsonist. I cheated in the 12 that I saved up to get the race to keep the marker around. In the end phase, since Toast had no cards left, I get to move Illuminated back with the Paranoia token. I drop a scheme in base-to-base contact on the center line. We both scored Strat, and I scored 1 for Harness the Leyline. Toast also reveals Harness the Leyline so that I can swap to a different scheme. Here's the current state of the board. Turn 1 took an hour and a half because, well, we're just slow, right? Yeah, let's move on to turn 2. We both picked the same scheme again, and yes, it was Assassinate. I picked Tenon since he seemed easier to kill than Mr. Graves, and Toast picked Carver. Lynch activated first, realizing that his head of security dying is probably bad for business. He targeted Carver with Anti-Up with the Preoccupied trigger to deal him 3 damage and give him Distracted and a Brilliance token. He then used Anti-Up a second time, cheating down for the Delay trigger to give Slow and deal 2 damage thanks to the tie. I also cheated this duel, so took 1 from Brilliance, which then immediately got reapplied with Lynch's Hold'em. For his last AP, Lynch targeted Carver with Compulsive Gambler again, using the Soulstone trigger Mulligan. He discards 3 cards for 3 damage, and he draws 4 cards. Toast forgot to put a scheme marker down here, but I don't think that would have mattered. This scores him Assassinate. Naturally, I had to go with Carver next before he gets thrown out of the casino. Targeting Mr. Graves with Rusty Shears, I empowered with the 2 of Mass to bypass Distracted and for the Shuffle Side trigger. Toast then used Gwyneth's Stack the Deck to remove Brilliance from Mr. Graves to give him a positive flip. Needing this to go off to get to Tenon, I cheated in a 12, dealing 3 damage to Graves, moving him up 4 to be in range to attack Tenon. We discussed this after, but Tenon could have used Brilliant Guide here to move Carver after resolving the attack before moving with Shove Aside, which would have kept Tenon quite safe. Either way, the attack goes off with a race, doing 4 damage and gives Tenon the aura Negligent. Now, everything within 2 of Tenon needs to pass a TN10 willpower duel whenever they declare an action other than walk. Of course, I declare Assassinate off of this. Unfortunately, Carver was out of AP to actually finish the job due to the slow token. But this was top of turn 2, so there's plenty of ways to kill Tenon. Gwyneth goes next, hits the jackpot, and discards all 4 cards. She then... You know how I said this was a casual game? Well, it was so casual that Toast decided to activate Tenon right after hitting the jackpot. Which, to be fair, we both didn't even realize until I started editing this video. It was an honest mistake, and to be fair, I didn't realize either because we were just talking out what we wanted to do and trying to learn the crew. It was also midnight, and we were both tired. Gwyneth also didn't activate later this turn, so I think overall this was a net loss for Toast. But yeah, anyway, back to the show. Tenon activates, uses the invisible hand on the scheme marker to give Mr. Graves Brilliance, and pulses out a heal. Using Brilliant Guide, he moved Mr. Graves. He then attacks Carver twice, failing once for 2 damage total, but he gets to heal himself with Inner Glow. It's Pandora time. She moves up the game to range and uses No Shelter here on Tenon, moving him past Carver and giving him Hazardous Aura. I empowered this with a Crow for Mental Trauma for that added hand pressure, since he did not want to take the 3 damage. Pandora then does the same to Mr. Graves, getting the Mental Trauma trigger again. I chose to move him back 4, giving him Hazardous, and since he was within 2 of Tenon, he takes 2 Hazardous damage thanks to Pandora's Unstable. Pandora, clearly not feeling charitable today, continues to provide No Shelter to the Honeypot staff and targets Gwyneth. I declared the Nothing Sacred Soulstone trigger to drain more resources. This drains 1 stone from Toast, and I get to draw a card, which was a 1 of Mask. Gwyneth is moved next to Graves, making it harder for her to charge Carver. She takes 2 from Hazardous, which I guess should have been 1 because Pandora didn't really have line of sight here. Don't think it mattered though. At the end of her activation, she heals Carver 1 with Toxic Family. This activation actually took me 15 minutes to do because Hazardous rules are just so... The Illuminated goes next and kicks my strat marker back over the line. He uses Shining Example to get a bit closer, and then walks up to be engaged to Lissa and Candy, in an attempt to slow them down from interacting with the strat marker. I then went with Delirium, kicking the strat marker up. Using Psychotic Influence, I placed Tannen 2 inches to Mr. Graves' Hazardous, dealing him 2 damage. I then summon a throw in base-to-base contact with Tannen, which also engages Mr. Graves. The Beckoner lures Carver right into attack range of Mr. Graves. She then moves up towards the center line. Wanting to waste some more activation, I used the Thrall to slap Tannen to get a lucky convulsion trigger to move him 3. This dealt him 3 damage total after Hazardous. Mr. Graves fails miserably to hit Carver on both attacks. The Negligent Aura coming in pretty clutch here, because he's flipped 2 Severes for the willpower duel instead of the actual attack. Aversion uses Friendly Reminder on Iggy and moves up twice past the center line. Huggy was Toast's last chance to score the second point of Assassinate. Charging in, he fails his attack. In the last-ditch effort to kill Carver, Huggy used Bound to Brilliance on Mr. Graves, who unfortunately fails the negligent check. Lysa attacks the Illuminated, gives him Paranoia, and leaves him on 1 health. The Beckoner in the corner walks up 6, kicks a strat marker up 6, hoping to get it closer to my deployment zone. I had the board now since Toast was out of activation. Knowing that he had 8 cards left in the deck, and both Jokers are still in it, I had to try and burn out his deck before trying to finish off Tannen, in case the red Joker shows up. First I went with Candy, who attacked Illuminated with self-looting, killing him. She then moves up to be in range with all 3 strat markers. Iki fails Little Arsonist twice, flipping a 1 and a black Joker. Sorrow creeps along towards Iki, and moves up to the strat marker, kicking it back over the line. It all comes down to the last activation with Lissa. She moves around the corner, and then charges Tannen. And of course I flipped the red Joker, killing Tannen. End of turn, we both score strat. I scored 2 for Assassinate, and Toast scored 1. Here's the board state going to turn 3. Things are heating up a bit, and you stuck around this long, I gotta do the usual YouTube spiel. So please like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing so far, because I really want more people to get into Malifaux. So yeah, more subs equals more flips. Let's get back to the game. I chose Scout the Rooftop, and Toast went with Detonate Charges. Lynch has had enough of listening to Smashing Pumpkins, kills Carver with Compulsive Gambler, with Mulligan discarding 3 and drawing 4. He then Compulsive Gambler in Pandora, but fails. Feeling generous, he pulses out Brilliance to everyone around 4, with this round's on me. He then immediately decided that Lissa was an ungrateful bitch, and straight up kills her with a Ram-empowered anti-up. What a murder hobo. Pandora goes all in on Graves, giving him Hazardous Token, draining a stone, tells him he's not balding, Tannen doesn't love him, for 2 whole damage, and then summons Alyssa in his face. Haki walks up and charges into the 3 woes near the center line, making sure that he's not engaged due to Aversion. He attacks Aversion for 3 damage, and then ordered Gwyneth to attack Lissa with anti-up with Draw Out Secrets. This does 3 damage and drops a ski marker down. Candy shows off her kickboxing skills by kicking both enemy strat markers over the line. She also goodie basket on herself to kick my marker over too. Unfortunately, I had to place them within range of the Beckoner since I didn't know whether I needed line of sight to place or not. Not wanting to be outshined by the little girl, the Beckoner also shows off her footwork by kicking both her markers and mine back over. Aversion uses Friendly Reminder on the Delirium, Iggy, and Sorrow. The Sorrow moves base to base in contact with the enemy strat marker. Gwyneth walks up, hits Jackpot, discarding all 4 cards again. The house is clearly winning here. Targets the Sorrow with anti-up and uses the crew card ability, Trump Card, for the Tome for 3 damage and a Brilliance, setting up Detonate Charges. Delirium charges up towards Graves and uses Mirrored Malice. Toast cheats this one to heal Graves for 2, which means Graves only takes 1 damage total. The second swing misses here, but here comes my favorite play of the game. Cheating high for Psychotic Influence, I chose Acrophobia to place Graves up onto the roof of the building. Since he increased in elevation, he takes 2, putting him down to hard to kill. But since he was still within 2 of the Lissa, Frozen Curse goes off, and this kills him. Pretty proud of that play. Beckoner moves up and drops a scheme marker down. Sorrow creeps along towards Delirium and drops a scheme marker onto Height 2 Barrel to prep for Scout the Rooftops. Lissa charges in, fails her slap on the Beckoner. The Summon Lissa tries to move out of scheme marker range, but doesn't have enough movement. Iggy climbs up the wall and falls on the other side, taking 1 damage. He then fails to get the raise to get the scheme marker down for Scout the Rooftops. End of the turn, I scored strat, and Toast reveals Detonate Charges on Delirium for 1 point. Here's the board state for end of turn 3. I kept Scout the Rooftop, having failed to score at this turn, but the setup is there to score 2 next turn. Toast picks Grave Robbing since he really wants to kill shit right now. Lynch starts off the turn by taking 2 from Frozen Curse. He targets the Sorrow with Compulsive Gambler with the Mulligan trigger, dropping a scheme marker next to the Sorrow and kills it. Since the scheme marker drops before the Sorrow is killed, he scores Grave Robbing. The rampage continues and Lynch kills both the Lissa and the Thrall with anti-up. Once again, what a murder hobo. Aki does the sensible thing of walk, scale, and scheme. Huggy kills Aversion and obeys the Beckoner to kick the strat marker over the line. He orders Gwyneth to walk up past the center line. Candy walks up to the strat marker and Batty basket the Beckoner, flipping Red Joker for 2 raises, moving her back 6, declaring grab on trigger for the slow. This ends her activation though. Beckoner charges up to Lissa, preventing her from interacting and attacking her twice, dealing 2 damage. Lissa uses Cruel Whisper to move the Beckoner back. She then kicks a strat marker over the line. The other Beckoner lures Pandora twice all the way towards the barrel, so she doesn't have line of sight to the Delirium. She then Deceiving Touches Pandora, flipping a Red Joker, declaring the trigger for a slow token. I wanted to stop Gwyneth from picking up any remains marker. Pandora had to walk twice around Puggy. Still feeling very uncharitable, she provides no shelter for Gwyneth and moves her back. Gwyneth then slaps Pandora in return for 2 damage. Last activation in the game, Delirium scales up this house over here and interact, dropping a scheme marker down to score 2 for Scouts to Rooftops. I also scored 2 for Strat here. Toast didn't manage to pick up any remains marker to score the second point of Grave Robbing, so Pandora wins 10-5. That was a super fun game and I had a blast playing against Toast. You can check out his video on his first impression of Malifaux over on the top right corner here. There were definitely a lot of rule misplay in this game, but hopefully I'll be a bit more on point for next video. I've always wanted to do some kind of battle report for either Warcry or Malifaux. The demand of 4th edition content has really given me the kick up the butt to get something together. I know Vassal is the go-to for Malifaux since it's faster and takes less time to set up, but I really recommend everyone try out the 4th edition TTS mod. It's really nice to have this 3D space to play in, and it certainly would be nice to find more people to play with. You can find more information about the mod in the Discord link in the description. If you made it this far, thanks for watching the video. I hope you weren't too fussed about us flubbing our way through the rules. I actually just realized I didn't use any of Pandora's crew card ability, which would have been really useful this game. But hey, we're here for a casual time, and we're here for a good time. Please let me know if you have any suggestions on what I can improve on, other than the game rules. But apart from that, I'll see you next time.